Hello everybody, and welcome to CCCLXVI, the podcast where we talk about the last movies we watched in the last week. This is episode 7 of CCCLXVI, so this has been pretty good so far. Without further ado, let's get into the movies we watched this week. Now, the first movie we watched this week was The Usual Suspects. And it really had more of a very ensemble cast with memorable performances from Benicio del Toro, Stephen Baldwin. I always have trouble pronouncing Stephen whenever it has the PH in it because it always just throws me off and makes me want to say Stefan instead, even though I think it's Stephen. It might be Stefan though. I'm not quite sure if it's pronounced Stefan ever. Anyways, we're now getting into a discussion on how to pronounce Stephen instead of The Usual Suspects. Also, it has, of course, Kevin Spacey is also really good. So, The Usual Suspects is a pretty good movie with very good performances by everyone in it, and it's a very nice sort of crime film, and if you've heard me and Benji talk, we have said that we really enjoy crime films a lot, and The Usual Suspects is no different. I really enjoyed it, and from what I've heard from Benji, he also really enjoyed it. So, you did enjoy this movie, right, Benji?
Yes.
What did you enjoy about the movie, Benji?
Well, I usually like twist at the end of movies, and it did have a twist.
Yeah, the twist is very, very sort of famous in The Usual Suspects. It's a very good twist.
It had a double twist.
It did sort of have a double twist. Yeah, it showed you, it made you think that something was happening, but then it twisted itself back around. It made a twist to the right, and then it immediately twisted to the left. So, yeah, it did have a double twist. And so, yes, the twist is very good. The writing was really good in this movie. The directing was good. Kevin Spacey's performance is something that I think that really makes this movie, is Kevin Spacey's performance as Verbal Kint. He does a great job. And so, yes, The Usual Suspects is a great movie. It won 2 Oscars. As I said, the writing is really good, and it won an Oscar for that. And it also had a very good performance from Kevin Spacey, and it also won an Oscar for that. So yes, The Usual Suspects is great. What would you give it out of 10, Benji?
A 10 out of 10.
I agree with you. Is there anything more that you would like to say about this movie? Because I feel like we haven't said too much about it.
Not really.
Should we talk a bit more about... Okay, so we're going to get into spoiler territory here, because we're going to be talking about the twist. Because most of the time, whenever I find that we do this, is we aren't very specific whenever we talk about the movies. And I think that we should become more specific. So we're going to be talking about the twist. So if you haven't seen The Usual Suspects, spoiler alert, I guess that should be sort of a thing for any of our podcast, spoiler alert. So the twist in The Usual Suspects is great. And Benji, did you expect the twist at all?
No.
Especially because it was a double twist. Because you would never expect that. So, I mean, it also shows how smart Kevin Spacey's character is, because he basically creates this entire story in his head, but you actually don't know, did he create it, or did it all happen? You aren't quite sure. You don't know what's real and what's not, and that's one of the great things about having an unreliable narrator like Spacey in this movie, is that you aren't quite sure what is real and what isn't real, and it's very interesting to watch a movie like that, and then after that you think, was that real or was that not real? Was any of it real? Because we only know like 3 things. We only know that Keaton got shot on a boat exploded. We only know really those 2 things, and that 2 people were still alive after it. And so you have to sort of, it also sort of personalizes the movie for you, because you can sort of take into yourself, or take what you want out of the movie. Think what is real and what isn't real, and it gives you sort of that choice to choose what's real and what's not real. So do you get what I'm saying whenever I say all that, Benji?
Yes, I personally think that none of it was real.
None of it?
I mean, except for the stuff that we know for sure. But I think he would just came up with all that.
I don't agree with you. I feel like I think that he came up with some of the names and stuff, and some other things, but I think that lots of it was real, such as like them. I don't actually know what is real, what isn't real. I don't know. It's a very thought-provoking movie, and I really enjoyed it. So yes, The Usual Suspects, I'd give it a 10 out of a 10. I'm pretty sure you said 10 out of 10, right?
I did.
Yeah, Usual Suspects is great. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It has a couple of violent scenes. It's not that violent. I mean, there's a couple of scenes that are a bit violent, but overall not too violent compared to some other films on our list. Django Unchained. There was some also foul language in it, but it's not as bad as some other films on our list as well. So yes, Usual Suspects, we both give it a 10 out of 10. This is probably the longest we've talked about one movie. So, anyways, on to Catch Me If You Can, starring Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. Catch Me If You Can is pretty cool, and as I'm pretty sure I'm never going to stop quoting, Benji says, he's just really cool, you know? That's how I feel about Leonardo DiCaprio in this, he's just really cool, you know? So yeah, do you want to talk about this movie a bit more, Benji, or do you have anything to offer so far about how cool Leonardo DiCaprio is? Because that's the only thing you could really talk to me about after it, is he's so cool.
It's amazing, just all the stuff that how he just rolls with things. Like, there's this one scene where a guy walks in, it's like an FBI agent, and he's pointing the gun at him. He's like, "Come, stop pointing your gun at me. I'm an FBI, I'm like a police officer."
He's a Secret Service. Secret Service, I'm pretty sure is what it was. But yeah, it's sort of also a bit more, he's also sort of a Kevin Spacey type character in The Usual Suspects, is because he's incredibly smart, and he just sort of creates that entire sort of story just immediately. He immediately rolls with it, which is also what Kevin Spacey does in The Usual Suspects. But yeah, Catch Me If You Can is great. I mean, Tom Hanks is also really, really good in this movie. So is Leonardo DiCaprio. Writing is pretty good. It's based on a true story, which makes it even cooler. And so yeah, I also like movies where people get really rich, which is basically what he does. And so yes, it's also just sort of, it's me living vicariously through other people in these movies. So do you get what I'm saying there, Benji? Is that I enjoy watching this person sort of succeed and get all that money, and everything just always work out for him and stuff. And it's really good. I really enjoyed Catch Me If You Can. I definitely recommend you watch it. It was a funny movie. It has it's a sort of drama. It's great. So do you have anything more to add, Benji? I sort of cut you off from your story. Do you want to continue with your story? Sorry.
No, not really.
Are you sure you don't want to continue with your story? I think it was going good.
Wait, I kind of forgot what my story was. What was I talking about?
You're talking about him whenever Tom Hanks went into his hotel room or whatever, and he was pretending to be a Secret Service agent and all that. Do you want to continue your story?
Well, I really was just trying to say how he rolled with things. So, no, not really.
Yeah, he rolled with it so well, and he's just really cool. I think, yeah. And one of the concerns that the real person had whenever they were making this movie is he felt that Leonardo DiCaprio couldn't be as cool as him. But after watching, I can't remember what scene, but I think he just watched one scene and realized he was entirely wrong with that complaint. And so yes, Catch Me If You Can is great. What would you give it out of 10, Benji?
10 out of 10.
I have to agree with you on this, because some films I don't give a 10 out of 10 because it's not Oscar worthy, but I think that this film is based on a true story and everything, but it also has a really cool protagonist, so it's just two of my favorite. It's just a great film. 10 out of 10 from me as well. So, on to the third movie on our list, The Aviator. Another Leonardo DiCaprio movie, but this time, instead of playing a very cool person stealing a bunch of money from the banks, he plays Howard Hughes. And so, The Aviator is great. I really enjoyed it. It's a bit long, 2 hours and 50 minutes, and it's also a bit intense in some scenes. And Leonardo DiCaprio does a great job portraying Howard Hughes, but Howard Hughes is a very weird person from how he is portrayed in this movie. And so, yeah, it's a bit sort of scary, I guess. It's a bit scary to just watch Leonardo DiCaprio play this person, and because he's just so weird. And that scene where he's in the theater just watching that thing over and just totally cut off from all other humans and everything. But yeah, The Aviator's great. It won 5 Oscars, not including Best Picture, and that's a large amount for a film to win and not also get Best Picture with that. So, but yeah, The Aviator's pretty good. Leonardo DiCaprio does a great job. In my opinion, he should have won an Oscar for that. But yeah, The Aviator's great. It has great direction, great writing. It also has a great set design as well, because, it takes place sort of back in the I can't remember what decades it takes place in, but it takes place in the past, so I always like seeing those sort of past places in the sets and stuff. So yes, I really enjoyed The Aviator. Great everything. What do you have? Do you have anything to say about The Aviator, Benji?
No, not really. You've said a lot about it.
I've said it all. Are you sure?
Uh-huh.
So, what would you give it out of 10?
A 10 out of 10.
A 10 out of 10? Yeah, I agree. I'd give it maybe a 9.5 out of 10 because I don't think I really want to rewatch this movie. It was a bit long in places, and it's a 3-hour film, but it's very Oscar worthy. It was a very nice film, but unlike Catch Me If You Can, it's not as lighthearted. It's a bit more heavy. But yeah, I'd give it a 9.5 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Pretty good. I enjoy this movie. It's great. Now, the fourth movie that we watched this week was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Starring George Clooney and directed and written by the Coen brothers. Now, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Is pretty good. It's a pretty funny comedy. I really enjoyed it. The Coen brothers are sort of become a sort of favorite of mine. And I think we've only watched one other Coen brothers movie so far. And I think that was The Hudsucker Proxy. But maybe, have we watched any other ones, Benji? Can you remember other than The Hudsucker Proxy?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think that this is the second one. But anyways, I really like the Coen brothers. They're great. So yeah, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Was great. I think it's the first movie on our list that has actually had punctuation at the end of it. Most other movies don't have a sort of punctuation at the end, but because this is a question, it actually has a question mark at the end of that. That's just a little side note that I found a bit amusing, because this is the first time I've actually had to put a question mark. There's been, like, commas and periods other places, but this is the first time there's been a punctuation marking at the end of a title. Just a nice little... But did you enjoy Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, Benji? Anyways, we're getting too off track. Did you enjoy it?
I liked it.
You liked it?
It's not my favorite, but I liked it.
Yeah, it was a bit strange in some places, but I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was okay. It's not unlike The Usual Suspects and some of the other movies we watch. It's not as thought-provoking, but it's a very nice, enjoyable movie. I'd highly recommend you to watch it. It wasn't as long as some of the other films on our list this week. I think The Usual Suspects wasn't very long. I think that was like an hour and 45 minutes or something. Oh Brother, Where Art Thou was like an hour and 45 as well. That's not exact, that's just around. But yeah, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Pretty good. I enjoyed it. Pretty funny comedy. Made me laugh. So yeah, what would you give it out of 10, Benji?
About maybe a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10? I'd give it an 8.5 out of 10. It's not the best, but it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. It's not Oscar worthy. Well, maybe. The writing was pretty good. I'm pretty sure it got nominated for Best Writing. But other than that, nothing too special. I enjoyed it. Recommend you watch it. And the fifth and final movie we watched this week was War Horse. I'm pretty sure Catch Me If You Can was directed by Steven Spielberg. And I also am pretty sure War Horse was directed by Steven Spielberg. So this is the second Steven Spielberg movie on our list. And also, so we have had 2 appearances by Steven Spielberg and 2 appearances from Leonardo DiCaprio on our list. Bit odd, right, Benji?
Yes.
We've also had 2 appearances by a Baldwin. We had Stephen Baldwin in The Usual Suspects and Alec Baldwin in The Aviator as well. I forgot to mention Alec Baldwin. I love Alec Baldwin, and he was in The Aviator. Anyways, we've had multiple appearances this week. But yes, War Horse was a pretty good film depicting World War I. And yeah, it was pretty good. It wasn't the best film. I read the book to War Horse, which is, I think this is one of the few times that I've actually read the book and actually sort of remember reading the book on this list for a movie that was based on a book. And so, in my opinion, I didn't really enjoy the book very much. I had to read it for school, and whenever you have to read something ever, it's not as enjoyable. So I didn't enjoy the book that much. It was okay. It was an okay book. And that's how I feel about the movie. It was an okay movie. It had some good performances by Benedict Cumberbatch, and I cannot remember the other guy's name, but the guy that plays Loki, the Avengers movies in Marvel Cinematic Universe. Those 2 people had pretty good performances, and it also really does a pretty good job portraying the horrors of World War I, in my opinion. It did a pretty good job, and it makes you feel, it reminds you that war is awful, and you don't like war. War is pretty bad. So yeah, War Horse was pretty nice movie. Okay, mediocre. I also was sort of required to watch this movie as well, because I had to watch this as a movie for World War I for a social studies thing. I would have preferred to watch Paths of Glory instead. My it's in that's my favorite World War I film. And I think it's also your favorite World War I film, right, Benji? Paths of Glory?
Yes.
So yeah. Anyways, what is your opinion on War Horse? Did you like it? Did you dislike it? Was it just mediocre, like I'm saying? What do you feel about it? Just tell me your opinions.
It was like mediocre, is what I think. It's kind of, there were some really funny parts that's just kind of ridiculous.
What do you mean it's sort of ridiculous?
Like, there's that one scene where there's like the two people on the, it's like...
Oh yeah, in the trenches, whenever they're cutting the barbed stuff off the horse.
We need more wire cutters, and then like thousands fly over it.
It was just like 10, but yeah. It was, that scene was sort of funny, and also sort of showed the humanity behind the war, and that these people aren't soldiers, they're human beings who want to help this horse. And soon those people might have to kill each other because of how awful war is. So yes, it has a very strong anti-war message in it.
It's a cow. That's what they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the thing is in this movie is that one of the problems that I think was in this book is a large part of the book of this movie took place inside of the horse's head and had the horse thinking and narrating, and you could hear the horse's thoughts, not hear it but read it. You get what I'm saying. But the thing about War Horse is you can't do that with a horse, because there's two ways to adapt a character whenever they think a lot but don't tend to talk very much. Is number one, you leave them not talking very much, but then you get sort of a flat-ish character, and it's not as well. It's not as good. Or two, you make them talk a ton, which sort of changes their character and makes them seem a bit crazy, because they're constantly talking to themselves. But that probably is better for the audiences. However, if you have an animal, you can't make the animal talk, because you just can't make an animal talk. That's not... In a serious film, anyways, you can't make an animal talk. In a silly film, sure, you can make an animal talk. But this is a very serious film about war and stuff, and you can't really make an animal talk in that. So you're left with having the horse try to act. And because it's a horse, it can't display emotions very well. So that's one of the problems I felt that this film was plagued by, was that the direction and writing and everything were okay. As I said, Benedict Cumberbatch and Loki do a great job in the acting. And so yeah, a couple memorable scenes. Overall, pretty mediocre though. So what would you give it out of 10, Benji?
Maybe like a 6 or a 7. About a 6, I think. Well, no, a 7.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd give it a 7.25 because it had a nice anti-war message, and it made me think about how awful war is afterwards. And it definitely doesn't deserve a 6, because that would be worse than Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I enjoyed Gone in 60 Seconds, though, because it has Nicolas Cage, and it was a rather silly but enjoyable movie. So yes, War Horse was pretty good. I enjoyed War Horse, but it was a mediocre film. And so, yeah. Do you have anything to add to any of the films that we've watched this week, Benji?
Not really.
Not really? You feel like we've said it all here?
Yep.
Yeah, well, this has been a pretty long episode, and even longer considering how we've only had 5 movies to talk about. And so I think this might be our longest episode yet. This has been CCCLXVI. I'm Ethan.
I'm Benji.
And this week has been a pretty good week, and goodbye.